Hi, everyone. I'm Mark, and 6 months ago, my family's life took a turn. My sister, which I've never heard of before, came out of nowhere. Her arrival almost brought my family to ruin. But first things first, I am 16, and this year I were to take school exams. I've got quite an average family: dad, mom, and little sister called Kate, who's a royal pain, but I still love her. Life is going well, and then something completely unexpected happened. It all began 6 months ago when someone knocked at our flat's door. Instead of using the doorbell, the guest simply pounded the door with his fists. When Dad opened, a girl stood on the threshold. She was kind of a person you won't like to run into a dark alley. Big muscles, broad shoulders, the crooked smile of the hangman, the hefty scar on the eyebrow. All in all, not a pleasant sight. Dad threatened her with police. But then, an uninvited guest noticed my mother and rushed to her with a loud, "Mom!" The girl introduced herself as Julia and told us her story. According to Julia, Mom gave birth to her when she was 20. Mom was alone in a foreign city. No one would have helped her with the child, so she simply left Julia at the orphanage. At first, Dad didn't trust a word of our guest, but then we looked at our mom, saw her face, and realized Julia was telling the truth. Mom turned more and more pale with every word of my unexpectedly found sister. After a couple of minutes, she burst into tears. That didn't stop Julia from describing her life at the orphanage. Described her life in an orphanage with cruel, neglectful teachers and dangerous friends who led her on a dark path. Julia's buddies persuaded her to stand watch while they robbed the store. The store belonged to some big cheese, and young robbers were swiftly caught. Yet the orphanage friends somehow managed to pull all the blame on Julia while they walked away unpunished. The guest's story ended on a positive note. When Julia got out of prison, she had nowhere to go, but the police, touched by her exemplary behavior, helped the poor girl find her only relative in the whole world. Julia bought a train ticket with her last money, and now she was standing on our doorstep, with no home and no shelter of her own, asking for help. Mom, of course, was eager to aid her newfound daughter. My dad and I had no choice but agree with her. Our living room was converted into Julia's temporary room, so all of us had to double up. She gave us zero problems during the first month of her stay. The first month, there were no problems with her. She was neither seen nor heard, tried not to disturb anyone, and even helped us around the house. Well, sometimes she did disappear for days at a time, yet always apologized when she returned. She told us she was looking for work. But after, Julia took a closer look at our family. She fully understood the situation and realized that she's got my mom wrapped around her finger. That's when the problems began. At first, valuables began to disappear from the house. Small sums of money, mother's jewelry, father's watch. I guess each of us suspected Julia of being the culprit. And in several days, I received a clear proof of my suspicion. Julia was caught hiding my phone in her bag. She returned me the phone, but whispered in my ear, "If you ever tell Mom or Dad about the incident, you'll regret ever being born." Several days in a row, Julia came home smelling of alcohol. And then she started to bring her friends over. Guys in tattoos, girls with vulgar makeup. She was having parties with her guests in the kitchen. But each time we saw those strangers, we simply locked ourselves in our rooms and waited for Julia's friends to leave. Dad wanted to put Julia in her place, that all this goes beyond any boundaries, but Mom had a fit and he abandoned the idea. Soon, father and mother began to quarrel. It was clear that Mom herself was not happy with Julia's behavior, but she wasn't able to scold her. After all, Julia was her abandoned child, and Mom couldn't get over her guilt. Everything in our family was falling apart. I forgot about preparing for exams. My little sister locked herself in her room for days and refused to go to school. Our family was on the verge of collapse, and that only made Julia bolder. Dad and Mom almost came to divorce. Dad even tried asking me in secret whether I'd like to live with him or with Mom. But, as they say, every cloud has a silver lining. That day, Julia has just brought another one of her friends home. At that very moment, Kate returned from school. Julia's friend scarred my little sister. She dropped her bag, ran to her room, and closed the door. For some reason, Julia's boyfriend picked up the bag and started digging through it. Dad was sleeping after the shift, and our guest must have thought he was safe. But all the noise awakened Dad, and he went to check if everything was okay. He saw an unfamiliar man digging through his little girl's bag, got incredibly angry, and literally kicked Julia together with a boy to the stairwell. Dad told Julia never to return, broke her keys, and threw her things out of the window. Even Mom quickly agreed with Dad's decision when she saw how shocked Kate was. This couldn't be tolerated any further. Now, however, Dad and Mom picked me and Kate up from school. They're afraid that Julia and her friends will find a way to take revenge. The most interesting thing is that some of our friends and relatives who knew about the situation took Julia's side. They still think we should try and save Julia from her friend's influence. Yet as far as I am concerned, she was the mastermind behind the situations, not her buddies. Support me and Kate with likes. We really could use any encouragement now. And tell us about your opinion in comments. Do you think my dad was right when he kicked Julia out of our house?